Imagine a man so powerful, he could bring the entire American economy to a standstill with a single phone call. A man who controlled billions of dollars, commanded the loyalty of millions of workers, and rubbed shoulders with presidents and mobsters alike. This was Jimmy Hoffa, the legendary boss of the Teamsters Union. And then, one summer afternoon, he vanished. Poof, gone without a trace. This is the story of one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. Born in 1913, James Riddle Hoffa was a fighter from the start. He dropped out of school to support his family and quickly found his calling in the rough-and-tumble world of labor organizing. In the 1930s, unions weren't just about negotiating contracts. They were a street-level battle for workers' rights. Hoffa was tough, charismatic, and utterly fearless. He quickly rose through the ranks of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, one of the largest and most influential unions in the country. By the late 1950s, Hoffa was the president of the Teamsters. Under his leadership, the union became a powerhouse. He negotiated the first national freight agreement, which dramatically improved wages, benefits, and working conditions for truck drivers across the country. He was hailed as a hero by his members, a working-class champion who delivered on his promises. The Teamsters Pension Fund, under his control, grew into a financial empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But with great power came great temptation and dangerous alliances. To consolidate his control and fight off rival unions, Hoffa forged connections with organized crime. The lines between the Union Hall and the mobsters' backroom began to blur. The massive Teamsters Pension Fund became a de facto bank for the mafia, financing casino construction in Las Vegas and other illicit ventures. This cozy relationship put Hoffa on a collision course with the federal government. The man who made it his personal mission to take down Hoffa was Robert F. Kennedy. As chief counsel for a Senate committee and later as Attorney General, RFK was relentless. He saw Hoffa as a corrupt figure, a cancer on the American labor movement. The press dubbed their feud the vendetta. The government threw everything it had at Hoffa, investigating his finances, his connections, and his every move. Finally, in 1964, they got him. Hoffa was convicted of jury tampering, bribery, and fraud. He was sentenced to 13 years in federal prison. Even from behind bars, he tried to run the union, but his grip was slipping. His hand-picked successor, Frank Fitzsimmons, grew comfortable in the top spot and started making his own deals, many of which didn't sit well with Hoffa. In 1971, President Richard Nixon commuted Hoffa's sentence, but there was a catch, a big one. Hoffa was barred from any union activity until 1980. For a man like Jimmy Hoffa, this was a fate worse than prison. He was a born leader, and being sidelined was intolerable. He immediately began a legal battle to overturn the restriction and launched a very public campaign to reclaim his throne as president of the Teamsters. This put him in direct conflict with his old friends in the mob. They were happy with Frank Fitzsimmons, who was far more accommodating and less of a media magnet. Hoffa, with his loud, combative style, was a liability. He was making threats, promising to clean up the union and expose the mob's influence over the pension fund if he got back in power. He was rocking the boat, and in their world, you don't rock the boat. Powerful figures in the mafia, like Anthony Tony Provenzano and Anthony Tony Giacalone, warned him to back off. Which brings us to July 30th, 1975, a hot, sticky afternoon in suburban Detroit. Jimmy Hoffa drove his Pontiac Granville to the Machu's Red Fox restaurant. He told his family he was going to a peace meeting with Provenzano and Giacalone. He was seen pacing impatiently in the parking lot, clearly waiting for people who were late. At around 2:45 p.m., a witness saw him get into a maroon Mercury Marquis with several other men. It was the last time anyone ever saw Jimmy Hoffa alive. He never came home. His car was found in the restaurant parking lot the next day, unlocked. The alarm was raised, and one of the biggest missing person investigations in American history began. The FBI was all over it. The list of suspects read like a who's who of organized crime. Tony Provenzano and Tony Giacalone, the men Hoffa was supposed to meet, both had ironclad alibis. They were nowhere near the restaurant. It was a classic setup. The investigation quickly focused on a small circle of mobsters and Teamster officials. One key figure was Chucky O'Brien, a man Hoffa had raised like a son. The maroon Mercury that Hoffa was seen getting into belonged to O'Brien's family. O'Brien claimed he had loaned the car to someone else and knew nothing, but his story kept changing. Later, scent-sniffing dogs detected Hoffa's scent in the back seat and trunk of that very car, suggesting he had been transported in it. The FBI believed Hoffa was lured to the meeting, kidnapped, and swiftly executed by the mafia to prevent him from regaining control of the Teamsters and exposing their secrets. But proving it was another matter entirely. The mob's code of silence, omerta, was in full effect. No one talked. Without a body, without a murder weapon, and without a confession, the case stalled. Over the decades, the mystery of what happened to Jimmy Hoffa has become a part of American folklore. The theories about where his body is buried are endless and often outlandish. Is he under the end zone at the old Giants Stadium in New Jersey? Is he part of a highway foundation in Michigan? Was his body incinerated at a mob-controlled facility? Every few years, a new tip or a deathbed confession sends investigators digging up a horse farm, a driveway, or a backyard, but they always come up empty. One of the most credible theories came from Frank the Irishman Sheeran, a mob hitman and close friend of Hoffa's. Late in his life, Sheeran confessed to his biographer that he was the one who personally shot and killed Hoffa. He claimed he picked Hoffa up, drove him to a nearby house, and shot him twice in the back of the head. He said the body was then cremated. The FBI investigated the house Sheeran identified and found blood evidence consistent with his story, but the DNA was too degraded to be a definitive match for Hoffa. So, was it Sheeran? Was it another hitman? We may never know for sure. The main players are all long dead. Tony Provenzano died in prison. Tony Giacalone died of natural causes. Chucky O'Brien passed away maintaining his innocence. The trail has gone cold, frozen in time. What we're left with is a story about power, loyalty, and betrayal. Jimmy Hoffa was a complex figure, a hero to many working people, but also a man who walked a dangerous path and made deals with devils. He flew too close to the sun, and when he fell, he vanished so completely that he became a legend, a ghost haunting the American landscape. The search for Jimmy Hoffa isn't just a search for a body. It's a search for the final chapter in a truly epic American saga. To this day, he remains officially listed as a missing person. No body, no arrest, no answers, just an enduring mystery. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by stories like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.